My fiancée confessed she's been keeping secrets from me because her ex-boyfriend advised her to. The night Olivia told me she had been lying to me for 8 months, we were sitting in our apartment eating Thai food from those white containers that always leak. She had been quiet all evening, picking at her pad thai with the kind of mechanical movement that meant her mind was somewhere else entirely. I had asked her twice if she was okay, and both times she had given me that smile, the one I had come to recognize as her "everything is fine" mask. But everything was not fine. When she finally set down her fork and looked at me with eyes that were already filling with tears, I felt my stomach drop in that way it does when you know something terrible is about to happen, but you cannot stop it. She said she needed to tell me something, and I remember thinking maybe she was pregnant, maybe she had lost her job, maybe her mother was sick again. I was not prepared for what came next. She told me she had been keeping secrets from me. Not one secret, but multiple secrets, deliberate omissions and calculated lies that she had maintained since we got engaged last April. My first reaction was confusion rather than anger, because Olivia was not a liar. In the 3 years we had been together, she had always been almost painfully honest, the kind of person who would correct a waiter if they forgot to charge us for a drink. She was a kindergarten teacher who cried at commercials and spent her weekends volunteering at an animal shelter. The idea that she had been systematically deceiving me felt like being told the sun was actually cold. When I asked her what kind of secrets, she looked down at her hands and said that her ex-boyfriend Nathan had told her she should keep certain parts of her life private from me, that it was healthy to maintain boundaries, that she did not owe me complete transparency just because we were getting married. The way she said it, like she was reciting something she had memorized, made my blood run cold. I asked her when she had been talking to Nathan. She had told me months ago that they had no contact, that he was part of her past, and that was where he would stay. Now she was admitting that they had been in regular communication, that he had become something like a confidant to her, someone she turned to when she needed advice about our relationship. The Thai food was getting cold on the table between us, but neither of us moved to clean it up. I felt like I was watching our relationship from outside my body, seeing it crumble in real time and being unable to do anything to stop it. She explained that Nathan had reached out to her about 6 months after we got engaged, just a casual message asking how she was doing, and she had responded because she thought it would be rude not to. That first conversation had led to another, and then another, until they were texting almost daily. He would ask about me, about our wedding plans, about whether she was happy, and somehow these conversations had shifted into him giving her relationship advice, telling her what she should and should not share with me. When I asked her what specifically she had been hiding, she hesitated. The pause stretched out long enough that I could hear the neighbor's television through the wall, some laugh track from a sitcom that felt obscene in its cheerfulness. Finally, she told me she had been lying about her work schedule, claiming she had evening meetings and weekend training sessions, when really she was meeting Nathan for coffee, for walks in the park, for long dinners where they would talk about everything she felt she could not discuss with me. She said it was not romantic, that they were just friends, that he understood her in ways I did not, because they had history together. But when I asked if she would have told me about these meetings if I had asked directly, she admitted she would have lied. That was when I knew this was worse than I had initially thought. This was not just about poor boundaries or misguided advice from an ex. This was about deliberate deception, about choosing to trust someone else over the person she was supposed to be building a life with. I wanted to ask her why, wanted to understand how she could justify this to herself, but the words would not come. Instead, I asked her what else Nathan had advised her to keep from me. She told me he had suggested she maintain a separate bank account that I did not know about, money she was setting aside just in case our marriage did not work out. He had told her it was smart to have an escape plan, that too many women got trapped in marriages because they were financially dependent on their husbands. She had opened the account 3 months ago and had been depositing a portion of each paycheck, money that should have been going toward our wedding fund or our shared savings. The account had almost $5,000 in it, $5,000 of secrets and distrust that she had been accumulating while I was planning our future together. Nathan had also advised her not to tell me about a job offer she had received in another state, one that would have required us to have a serious conversation about our priorities and our timeline. She had turned down the offer without ever mentioning it to me, and when I asked her why she would do that, she said Nathan thought it would create unnecessary conflict, that it was better to make the decision quietly and move on. The apartment felt smaller suddenly, like the walls were pressing in on us. I got up from the table and walked to the window, needing to put physical distance between us while I processed what she was telling me. Our wedding was supposed to be in 3 months. We had sent out invitations, hired a photographer, paid deposits on a venue. All of that had been happening while she was building a parallel relationship with her ex-boyfriend, taking his advice on how to manage our relationship, creating secret financial safety nets in case I turned out to be someone she needed to escape from. I asked her if she loved me, and she started crying harder, saying of course she did. That was why this was so confusing for her. Nathan had told her that love was not enough, that she needed to protect herself, that men change after marriage, and she should keep her options open. She had believed him, or at least part of her had, enough to act on his advice for 8 months while wearing my engagement ring and planning our wedding. I asked her if she realized how manipulative this was, how Nathan was clearly trying to sabotage our relationship, but she got defensive. She said Nathan was not trying to break us up, he just wanted her to be careful, to make sure she was making the right decision. He had asked her if she was really happy, if I really understood her, if she was settling because she was afraid of being alone. These questions had planted doubts in her mind, doubts that had grown into secrets and lies and hidden bank accounts. I could see it now, the careful architecture of manipulation that Nathan had constructed, each conversation designed to undermine her confidence in us, to position himself as the person who really cared about her well-being. And Olivia, sweet, trusting Olivia, who always saw the best in people, had walked right into it because she thought he was being a good friend. When I asked her why she was telling me this now, she said she could not do it anymore. The weight of the secrets had become too heavy, and she had realized during our last therapy session that this was not normal, that partners should not have elaborate systems of deception advised by their exes. We had started couples counseling 6 weeks ago, not because anything was obviously wrong, but because Olivia had read an article about how premarital counseling strengthened marriages. Now I understood that she had probably started therapy, hoping it would help her manage her guilt. Our therapist, Dr. Rebecca Winters, a licensed marriage and family therapist with 18 years of experience, had talked a lot about trust and communication, and apparently something she said had broken through the fog Nathan had created in Olivia's mind. Olivia said she felt like she had been living a double life, and she could not carry it into our marriage. She wanted to come clean, to start fresh, to prove to me that she could be the partner I deserved. If you are enjoying this story already, please subscribe to see more stories like this. But sitting there listening to her cry and apologize, I could not get past the fundamental betrayal of it. She had not just lied to me once in a moment of weakness. She had constructed an ongoing deception, had made countless individual choices over 8 months to prioritize Nathan's advice over our relationship, to hide things from me while pretending everything was fine. Every time she had kissed me goodbye before one of her fake work meetings, every time she had looked me in the eye and told me she loved me while maintaining a secret bank account, every time we had discussed wedding plans while she was taking relationship advice from her ex, she had been choosing the lie. And the worst part was that she still did not seem to fully understand why this was so wrong. She kept framing it as Nathan trying to help her, as if accepting relationship sabotage from an ex was a reasonable thing to do. I told her I needed time to think, that I could not have this conversation anymore that night. She asked where I was going, and I said I was going to stay at my brother's place for a few days. She started to panic, asking me not to leave, saying we could work through this together, but I could not be in that apartment with her. Everything looked different now, contaminated by the knowledge of her deception. The photos on our walls, the furniture we had picked out together, the life we had built. It all felt like a lie. I threw some clothes in a bag while she followed me around the apartment crying and trying to explain, trying to make me understand that she had never meant to hurt me. But intention did not change impact. She had hurt me, deeply and deliberately, over and over again for 8 months. My brother Lawrence opened his door at 11 at night without asking questions, just stepped aside and let me in. He made up the couch for me and brought me a beer, and we sat in silence for a while before he finally asked what happened. When I told him, his face went through a progression of emotions, confusion, to anger, to something that looked like pity. He said I needed to talk to a lawyer before I made any decisions, that if Olivia had been hiding money and taking advice from an ex about how to protect herself from our marriage, I needed to know my rights. At first I thought he was overreacting, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized he was right. Olivia had not just been emotionally unfaithful, she had been building a legal and financial exit strategy while we were engaged. That suggested a level of distrust and calculation that went beyond just poor judgment. The next morning I called a family law attorney named Richard Sterling, someone Lawrence knew through work. Sterling had been practicing for 23 years and had handled hundreds of divorce and prenuptial cases. When I explained the situation, he was quiet for a long moment before asking me if we had any joint accounts or shared property. I told him we had a joint savings account for the wedding, about $12,000, and that both our names were on the apartment lease. He asked if I had any proof of Olivia's secret bank account or her meetings with Nathan, and I realized I did not. I only had her confession, which she could potentially deny if this turned ugly. Sterling advised me to document everything, to write down exactly what Olivia had told me while it was fresh in my memory, to save any text messages or emails that might corroborate her story. He said that if we ended up breaking off the engagement, the wedding deposits and the joint savings could become contentious, especially if Olivia had been planning for this kind of scenario. I spent that day writing down everything I could remember from our conversation. The Thai food containers on the table, the way her hands had shaken when she first started talking, the specific things Nathan had told her to hide from me, the secret bank account with $5,000, the job offer in another state, the fake work meetings that were really coffee dates with her ex, the way she had described their relationship, like he was a trusted advisor rather than someone who was actively undermining her engagement. Writing it all out made it more real somehow, transformed it from a nightmare I might wake up from into a documented reality I had to deal with. I also went through my phone, looking for anything that might support or contradict what Olivia had told me. I found text messages from her claiming to be at work events when she must have been with Nathan, cheerful messages about how boring her training session was, or how her evening meeting was running late. The lies were right there in my message history, and I had believed every one of them. Olivia had been texting me constantly since I left, long, rambling apologies mixed with defensive justifications. She said she understood I was angry, but that she needed me to see this from her perspective, that Nathan had made her feel heard in ways I did not, that she had been struggling with doubts about our relationship and had not known how to talk to me about them. She said the secret bank account was not about planning to leave me, it was about feeling secure, about having something that was just hers. She said the meetings with Nathan were not dates, they were just two old friends catching up, and yes, maybe he had given her bad advice, but she had not realized it was bad at the time. Each message felt like another betrayal, another attempt to rewrite what had happened, to minimize the scope of her deception. I did not respond. I could not figure out what to say that would not make things worse. On the third day at Lawrence's apartment, I got a call from Dr. Winters, our couple's therapist. She said Olivia had reached out to her in distress and had asked if we could have an emergency session. Dr. Winters made it clear that she could not take sides, but she thought it might be helpful for us to talk through this with professional mediation. I was not sure I wanted to sit in a room with Olivia and relive the whole thing, but part of me needed to understand how this had happened, how the woman I was going to marry had become someone I did not recognize. I agreed to the session, scheduled for the following afternoon. Walking into Dr. Winters' office felt surreal. Olivia was already there, sitting on the familiar couch where we had spent 6 weeks talking about communication styles and conflict resolution. She looked terrible, like she had not slept since I left, and when she saw me, her face crumpled. Dr. Winters guided us through the session with careful neutrality, asking each of us to explain our perspective on what had happened. Olivia went first, and I had to listen to her describe how isolated she had felt in our relationship, how she had not felt like she could talk to me about her doubts and fears, how Nathan had seemed like a safe person to confide in because he knew her history. She cried through most of it, and part of me wanted to comfort her out of habit, but I stayed on my side of the couch. When it was my turn, I tried to stay calm and factual. I explained that I was not angry about her having doubts or needing someone to talk to. I was angry about the systematic deception, the secret bank account, the fake work meetings, the fact that she had been taking relationship advice from her ex-boyfriend while planning our wedding. I asked her directly in that session if she had been physically unfaithful with Nathan, and she swore she had not, that their relationship had never been romantic during this time. Dr. Winters asked if I believed her, and I said I did not know anymore, that the trust between us had been shattered so completely I could not tell what was real. Dr. Winters asked Olivia why she thought Nathan had given her the advice he did, what his motivation might have been. Olivia hesitated, then admitted that Nathan had told her multiple times he thought she was making a mistake marrying me, that we were not right for each other, that she deserved someone who understood her better. When Dr. Winters pressed her on whether she thought Nathan might still have feelings for her or might be trying to break up our relationship, Olivia got quiet. Finally, she said maybe. She had not really thought about it like that before, but looking back at their conversations with fresh eyes, she could see how he had been undermining us. That admission felt like progress, but it did not change what had already happened. Dr. Winters asked me what I needed from Olivia to even consider moving forward. I told her I needed complete transparency, starting with full access to all her communication with Nathan. I needed to see the text messages, the emails, everything they had discussed. I needed the password to the secret bank account so I could verify how much was in it and where the money had come from. I needed her to cut off all contact with Nathan immediately and permanently. And I needed her to understand that what she had done was not just a mistake or poor judgment, it was a fundamental betrayal of trust that had damaged our relationship in ways I was not sure could be repaired. Olivia agreed to all of it, said she would do whatever it took, that she had already blocked Nathan's number after our fight. But I could not shake the feeling that she was agreeing out of desperation rather than genuine understanding. After the session, Olivia handed me her phone without me having to ask again. I sat in my car in the parking lot and went through her text messages with Nathan, and what I found was worse than I had imagined. Their conversations went back almost a year, starting shortly after we got engaged. The early messages were friendly and innocent, just catching up on each other's lives, but they quickly became more intimate. Nathan would ask about me in ways that seemed designed to highlight my flaws. He would reference inside jokes from their relationship, remind her of trips they had taken together, ask if she missed the way things used to be. Olivia had engaged with all of it, had told him things about our relationship she had never told me, had complained about arguments we had had and doubts she was feeling. Reading those messages felt like watching her fall away from me in slow motion, Nathan's influence growing stronger with each conversation. There were messages from just 2 days before our fight, where Nathan told Olivia she should seriously reconsider the wedding, that it was not too late to back out, that being alone was better than being in the wrong relationship. Olivia had responded that she was confused, that she loved me but did not know if love was enough. Nathan had written back telling her to trust her instincts, that if she had doubts this serious, then they were probably right. He said she should keep protecting herself financially and emotionally, should not put all her eggs in one basket until she was absolutely certain. These messages were from the same week we had been addressing wedding invitations together, laughing about the names of my aunt's new boyfriend, making plans for our honeymoon. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. I called Richard Sterling from my car and read him some of the messages. He was quiet for a moment, then asked if I had considered that Nathan might have been trying to commit relationship fraud, potentially manipulating Olivia for financial or emotional gain. He explained that while it was not illegal for an ex to give bad advice, there were cases where this kind of manipulation could be considered coercive control, especially if it had influenced financial decisions. He suggested I might want to talk to Nathan directly, with a witness present, to see if I could get him to admit what he had been doing. Sterling said that if this escalated to any kind of legal action, having Nathan's own words acknowledging his behavior could be valuable. The idea of confronting Nathan made my skin crawl, but I could not let this go without understanding the full picture. I went through Olivia's messages until I found Nathan's phone number, then I called Lawrence and asked if he would go with me. We met Nathan at a coffee shop near his apartment the next evening. I had texted him from Olivia's phone asking to meet, and he had agreed immediately, probably thinking she had finally left me. When Lawrence and I walked in instead, the expression on Nathan's face shifted from eager anticipation to wary confusion. He was exactly what I had pictured, tall and athletic with that carefully casual appearance that took obvious effort to maintain. He started to stand up when he saw us, but I motioned for him to sit back down. I told him I knew everything about his conversations with Olivia, that she had confessed and shown me all the messages. I wanted to see how he would react, whether he would try to deny it or justify it. At first, he tried to play dumb, asking what I was talking about, but when I pulled out my phone and started reading his own words back to him, he changed tactics. He said he had just been trying to help Olivia, that he could see she was unhappy even if I could not, that a real friend tells you the truth even when it is hard to hear. I asked him if a real friend tells someone to hide money from their fiancé and lie about their whereabouts. He got defensive then, said that Olivia had needed someone she could trust, someone who was not going to judge her for having doubts. Lawrence, who had been silent until that point, asked Nathan directly if he was still in love with Olivia. Nathan hesitated just long enough to give himself away. Then he said what he felt did not matter, that Olivia was the one who mattered, that she deserved better than settling for someone just because it was comfortable. I felt Lawrence tense beside me, but I kept my voice level. I told Nathan that he had spent months deliberately sabotaging my relationship, that he had manipulated Olivia's natural anxieties and uncertainties to drive a wedge between us, that every piece of advice he had given her had been designed to push her away from me and back toward him. He did not deny it. Instead, he said that Olivia had reached out to him, that she had wanted his advice, that if our relationship was so solid, then nothing he said should have mattered. There was a smugness in his tone that made me want to hit him, but I had not come there to start a fight. I asked him what he thought would happen now. Did he think Olivia was going to leave me and come running back to him? Did he think that 8 months of poisoning her mind would make her forget why they had broken up in the first place? Nathan leaned back in his chair and said that Olivia had been having doubts long before he came back into her life, that maybe I should look at my own behavior instead of blaming him for my relationship problems. That was when Lawrence pulled out his phone and set it on the table. He had been recording the entire conversation, with my knowledge and Nathan's unwitting consent. In our state, only one party needed to consent to a recording, and Lawrence had been that party. Everything Nathan had just said, every implicit admission and smug justification, was now documented. Nathan's face went pale when he realized what had happened. He started to protest, but I told him it was too late, that he had made his choices, and now he would live with the consequences. I said that if he ever contacted Olivia again, if he so much as texted her a greeting or looked at her social media, I would make sure everyone in his life knew exactly what kind of person he was. I would send the recording to his employer, to his friends, to his family. I would make sure the next woman he dated knew his history of manipulating and sabotaging other people's relationships. He tried to argue that he had not done anything illegal, and I agreed. But that did not mean there would not be consequences. Walking out of that coffee shop, I felt something shift inside me. I had spent 3 days feeling like a victim, like something had been done to me that I was powerless to stop. But confronting Nathan, seeing him try to justify his behavior and then panic when he realized he had been caught, gave me back some sense of control. The recording was insurance, protection against any future attempts he might make to worm his way back into Olivia's life. But more than that, it was proof that I had not imagined this, that there really had been a deliberate campaign to destroy my relationship, that my anger and hurt were justified. When I got back to Lawrence's apartment, there were 6 missed calls from Olivia. I called her back, and she answered on the first ring. She asked where I had been, her voice tight with anxiety, and I told her I had been talking to Nathan. There was a long silence, then she asked what I had said to him. I told her everything, about the confrontation and the recording and the ultimatum I had given him. I expected her to be angry that I had gone behind her back, but instead, she started crying. She said she was relieved, that she had been terrified Nathan would keep trying to contact her, that she did not trust herself to stay strong if he did. She said blocking his number had felt good, but also terrifying, like cutting off a limb she had become dependent on. Hearing her describe it that way, like an addiction or a sickness, made me realize how deep Nathan's manipulation had gone. Olivia asked if I would come home, if we could talk in person. I told her I was not ready yet, that I needed more time to process everything. She accepted that, said she understood, that she would wait as long as it took, But then she said something that caught me off guard. She said she had been thinking about what Dr. Winters said about Nathan's motivations, and she had gone back through all their conversations with new eyes. She had found messages she had forgotten about or misinterpreted at the time, moments where Nathan had been overtly trying to undermine me, where he had said things that were factually untrue about who I was or how I treated her. She had believed him because she wanted to believe he cared about her well-being, but now she could see it had all been manipulation. She said she felt stupid and ashamed, that she should have seen through it earlier, that she had let him get inside her head because some part of her liked the attention. That admission meant something to me. It was the first time Olivia had taken real ownership of her choices instead of framing herself as Nathan's victim. She had been manipulated, yes, but she had also made active decisions to engage with that manipulation, to hide things from me, to build a secret life that contradicted our shared future. Both things could be true at the same time. Over the next week, we had more conversations, some in Dr. Winters' office, and some just the two of us. Olivia gave me full access to the secret bank account, showed me every deposit, and confirmed that all the money had come from her own paychecks. She wrote Nathan a formal cease and desist letter with the help of Richard Sterling, making it clear that any further contact would result in legal action. She told her parents and her closest friends what had happened, taking responsibility for her deception rather than blaming it all on Nathan. These felt like real steps, genuine attempts to rebuild trust. But even with all of that, I could not decide if I wanted to stay with her. The wedding was supposed to be in 9 weeks, and every day that passed without me making a decision meant more money potentially wasted on deposits and more people expecting an invitation that might never come. Dr. Winters suggested we postpone the wedding regardless of whether we stayed together, that trying to rebuild trust while also planning a major life event was too much pressure. Olivia agreed immediately, said she would handle telling the vendors and our families, that she would take the blame and the financial hit if necessary. That gesture mattered to me, her willingness to face the consequences and the embarrassment rather than trying to hide what had happened. We postponed the wedding, told everyone there had been some personal issues we needed to work through first. Most people accepted this with understanding, though I could see the questions in their eyes, the worry that we were making a mistake. My mother pulled me aside and asked if Olivia had been unfaithful, and I told her a version of the truth, that Olivia had been in inappropriate contact with her ex and had lied about it. My mother, who had always liked Olivia, looked disappointed but not entirely surprised. She said that if I decided to stay with Olivia, I needed to be absolutely certain I could forgive her, because holding this over her head for the rest of our marriage would poison everything. If I could not forgive her, it would be kinder to end it now. That advice echoed in my head for days. Could I forgive Olivia? Did I even want to? Some days I would remember something sweet she had done, some moment of genuine connection we had shared, and I would think maybe we could get past this. Other days, I would be hit with a wave of anger so intense I could barely breathe, anger at her lies and her choices and her willingness to trust Nathan over me. The trust that had taken 3 years to build had been destroyed in 8 months, and I did not know if it could be rebuilt or if I even had the energy to try. 3 weeks after our fight, something unexpected happened. Olivia got a call from a woman named Melissa Grant, someone she had never met. Melissa explained that she had been dating Nathan for the past 4 months and had just found out about his ongoing contact with Olivia. Nathan had told Melissa that Olivia was just a friend, someone from his past who occasionally reached out for advice. But Melissa had found the text messages on his phone, had read the same conversations I had read, and had realized Nathan had been actively trying to sabotage Olivia's relationship while dating her. Melissa said she was calling because she thought Olivia deserved to know that Nathan had not just been manipulating her, he had been doing it while lying to another woman, potentially setting up Olivia as his backup plan if things did not work out with Melissa. If this story keeps your interest, please subscribe to get more stories like this. Olivia was shaken by this call. She asked Melissa how she had gotten her number, and Melissa explained that Nathan's phone had logged contacts and she had found Olivia listed under a nickname. They talked for over an hour, comparing notes on Nathan's behavior, realizing that he had told them both similar lies and manipulations. Melissa said Nathan had a pattern of staying in touch with his exes, of keeping them emotionally dependent on him while pursuing new relationships. She had found evidence that there were at least 2 other women he was doing this with, women he claimed were just friends, but who he was clearly keeping on the hook. Melissa was planning to break up with him and wanted to warn the other women. She asked Olivia if it would be okay to give them her contact information, as someone who could corroborate the pattern. Olivia called me immediately after hanging up with Melissa, her voice shaking with a mixture of anger and vindication. She said she had thought Nathan was her friend, that even though his advice had been bad, she had believed he cared about her. Now she realized he had been playing a long game, trying to break us up so he could swoop in as the supportive ex who had always been there for her. The revelation that he had been doing this with multiple women, that she was not special or unique, but just another mark in his pattern, seemed to hurt her almost as much as the original betrayal. She said she felt disgusted with herself for falling for it, for being so blind to what was really happening. I asked her what she wanted to do with this information. She said Melissa had asked if she would be willing to talk to the other women, to help them see what Nathan was really doing. Olivia wanted to do it, wanted to stop him from hurting anyone else the way he had hurt her and damaged us. I told her I thought that was a good idea, that maybe some good could come out of this situation if it prevented Nathan from manipulating other people. Over the next few days, Olivia connected with 3 other women who had been in various stages of Nathan's manipulation pattern. 2 of them were his exes, who he had stayed in suspiciously close contact with, and 1 was a current friend who he had been slowly isolating from her boyfriend. All of them had similar stories. Nathan presenting himself as a trusted confidant while subtly undermining their relationships and keeping them emotionally tied to him. The women decided to confront Nathan together, not in person, but through a coordinated message campaign. Each of them sent him a message on the same day, explaining that they knew about his pattern, that they had compared notes, and that they were cutting off contact permanently. They also warned him that if he tried to manipulate any of them again, they would go public with his behavior, posting their experiences on social media and warning other women in their social circles. The messages were firm but not threatening, focused on protecting themselves and others rather than revenge. Nathan responded to a few of them with attempts at gaslighting and justification, but when he realized he had been caught so thoroughly, he stopped. His social media accounts went quiet, and none of the women heard from him again. Watching Olivia take action, seeing her move from shame and passivity to anger and empowerment, changed something in how I saw the situation. She had made terrible choices, had lied to me, and betrayed my trust in ways that still hurt. But she was also dealing with the reality that someone she had trusted had deliberately manipulated her, had exploited her insecurities and anxieties for his own gain. Both of these things were true. She was responsible for her choices, and she had been a victim of manipulation. The question was whether I could accept that complexity, whether I could hold both truths at the same time and still want to build a future with her. We spent the next month in intensive therapy, both individual and couples sessions. Dr. Winters helped Olivia work through her tendency to please people at the expense of her own boundaries, the patterns that had made her vulnerable to Nathan's manipulation in the first place. She helped me process my anger and hurt, helped me figure out what I needed to feel safe in the relationship again. Slowly, carefully, we started to rebuild. Olivia moved into her own apartment for a while, giving us both space to figure out what we wanted without the pressure of shared rent and tangled finances. She paid me back half of what we had lost in wedding deposits, even though I told her it was not necessary. She said it was important to her to take material responsibility for the damage she had caused. 6 months after our original fight, we had a conversation about whether we wanted to try again. Not get engaged again, not pick up where we had left off, but start over as if we were dating for the first time. We agreed to take things slowly, to build trust through actions rather than words, to be honest, even when it was uncomfortable. It was not romantic or dramatic. It was careful and intentional, 2 people choosing each other with full knowledge of the damage that had been done and the work it would take to heal. I told her that I could not promise I would ever fully trust her again, that there might always be a part of me that wondered if she was hiding something. She said she understood, that she had broken something precious, and she could not expect me to just hand it back to her. But she wanted to try, and so did I. A year later, we were in a different place. Not back where we had been before, but somewhere new that we had built together. We had both learned things about ourselves and each other, painful lessons that had cost us a wedding and nearly our entire relationship. Olivia had become more assertive, better at setting boundaries and recognizing when someone was trying to manipulate her. I had learned to communicate my needs more clearly, to not assume that love was enough without trust and transparency. We still saw Dr. Winters occasionally, maintenance sessions to make sure we were staying on track. We had not talked about marriage again, and I was fine with that. What we had now was more solid than what we had before, even if it was less idealistic. Nathan had disappeared from our lives completely. The last any of us heard, he had moved to a different city and was working in corporate sales. The women he had manipulated had formed a loose support network, checking in with each other occasionally to make sure no one was backsliding into unhealthy patterns. Melissa had started dating someone new and seemed happy. Olivia had reconnected with some of the friendships she had let lapse while she was caught up in Nathan's web, rebuilding her support system outside of our relationship. These felt like real victories, tangible proof that we were all moving forward rather than staying stuck in the damage he had caused. Looking back on it now, I can see how close we came to destroying everything. If Olivia had not confessed, if she had kept those secrets just a little bit longer, we probably would have gotten married, and the truth would have come out afterward when it was much harder to untangle our lives. If I had not been willing to do the hard work of understanding what had happened, if I had just walked away in anger without trying to see the full picture, we would have lost something worth saving. And if Nathan had been smarter or more subtle in his manipulation, if he had not been running the same con on multiple women simultaneously, we might never have realized the full scope of what he was doing. The experience changed how I think about trust and relationships. I used to believe that trust was binary, that you either trusted someone completely or you did not trust them at all. Now I understand it is more nuanced than that trust can be broken and partially rebuilt, that you can love someone and still protect yourself emotionally, that forgiveness does not mean forgetting or pretending the hurt never happened. I also learned that manipulation is more common than I realized, that there are people who will exploit your vulnerabilities not for money or power, but just for the ego boost of knowing they can control you. Nathan had gotten something out of undermining Olivia's relationship with me, some validation or satisfaction that I will never fully understand. Olivia learned that she had been seeking external validation in ways that made her vulnerable, that she had needed Nathan to tell her she was making the right choices because she did not trust her own judgment. She had let him become the authority on her own life, had given him power over her decisions that should have been hers alone. That pattern had started long before Nathan came back into her life. It was visible in how she had handled things with previous boyfriends, how she checked with friends and family before making decisions, how she second-guessed herself constantly. Working with her individual therapist, a clinical psychologist named Dr. Jennifer Matthews, who specialized in codependency and self-esteem issues, Olivia had started to build confidence in her own judgment, to trust herself instead of always seeking someone else's approval. We are not engaged anymore, and we might never be. But we are together, and that means something. We are building a relationship based on reality rather than idealism, on clear communication rather than assumptions, on earned trust rather than blind faith. It is harder than what we had before, requires more conscious effort and honesty, but it feels more real. When Olivia tells me she loves me now, I believe her not because I assume she is telling the truth, but because she has shown me through consistent action over time. When I tell her I am committed to working on us, she knows it means I am choosing to be here despite the hurt, not that I have forgotten or minimized what happened. Sometimes I still get angry about it, usually at unexpected moments. I will see a couple at a restaurant and wonder if they are hiding things from each other the way Olivia hid things from me. I will hear a song that reminds me of that time period and feel the betrayal fresh in my chest. But those moments are less frequent now, less intense. They are scars rather than open wounds, reminders of what we survived rather than constant pain. Olivia handles these moments with patience, does not get defensive or try to explain away my feelings. She acknowledges what she did and sits with my anger without trying to make it go away faster than it is ready to go. The Thai food containers from that first night ended up in the trash at my brother's apartment, the leftovers congealed and inedible. Lawrence joked months later that he should have saved them as evidence, like people saved the bottle from their first date. But there was nothing romantic about that night, nothing worth commemorating except as a before and after marker in our lives. Before that night, we were people who thought love was enough. After it, we were people who knew better, who understood that love was necessary but not sufficient, that it had to be paired with trust and honesty and the hard work of choosing each other over and over again. If I could go back and warn my past self what was coming, I am not sure I would. The person I was before this happened would not have believed that Olivia was capable of that kind of deception. He was naive in ways that probably needed to be shattered. The person I am now is more cautious, but also more resilient, less trusting, but also more capable of real intimacy because I understand how fragile and valuable it is. I have learned that you can survive betrayal without becoming bitter, that you can forgive without forgetting, that relationships can break and be rebuilt into something different but still worth having. As for Nathan, I hope he learned something from having his pattern exposed, from losing access to all the women he was manipulating simultaneously, but I am not counting on it. People like that rarely change unless they are forced to confront themselves in therapy or through major consequences, and Nathan faced neither. He just lost his current targets and probably moved on to find new ones in his new city. That is not my problem anymore. My problem is continuing to build something real with Olivia, continuing to choose vulnerability even though I know how much it can hurt, continuing to believe that what we are creating together is worth the risk. The wedding we postponed would have been beautiful but false, a celebration of a relationship that looked perfect on the outside while rotting from the inside. If we ever do get married, it will be with full knowledge of each other's flaws and failings, with eyes wide open to the ways we can hurt each other and the work it takes to not do that. It will be less Instagram-worthy but more honest, less fairy tale but more real, and that feels like enough. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.